Hello, hello, hello. I'm Simona Costantini, and I'm obsessed with helping you connect to your purpose and teaching you about all things mindset, business, podcasting, and everything in between. I realized I deserved and wanted more from this thing called life, so I changed my beliefs, healed my hurt, and made it my mission to help you do the same. I'm a recovering people pleaser turned life coach and podcast producer. I teach busy business owners how to confidently fall in love with their life and business and live it on their terms. On this show, you get everything raw and real, from inspirational guest interviews to deep dives into topics like life, relationships, business, purpose, growth, and mindset. I lay it all on the line every single time. Think of this as your one-stop shop to help you live a more purposeful and inspired life. This is the Happiness Happens podcast. Are you ready to hear this inspiring conversation? Let's dive on in. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am stoked that you're here. We have an amazing guest today. Her name is Tara Fischer, and she was just such a ray of light when we were chatting on the podcast. I'm stoked for you to hear this conversation, but I want to tell you a little bit about her first before we dive on in. For Tara, it all started with a blog on how traveling can help you grow into the person you are meant to be and help you unlock your potential, which led her to mentor women across the globe on how they can improve their experiences of life, improve their performance, and manifest their dreams through working on what she calls the 5 facets of change: personal growth, mindset, mindfulness, productivity, and goal setting, and lastly, your mental and physical health. She has studied sports and health science with a focus on human psychology and neurology, which showed her the importance of mind-body connection and how we can use our mind to create a life that we want. Ever since she detected this amazing wisdom, she made it her purpose to share and educate people in her community through Instagram, YouTube, and her blog on how they can live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation because we talk about all of these different facets, and we also talk about affirmations and visualization and meditation. So I'm really excited for you to dive on into this conversation with us today. I know you're going to love it just as much as I did. She's just so lovely, so sweet. Before we head into the conversation, if you're listening, I would so appreciate if you could rate, review the podcast, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Your ratings and reviews make a world of a difference to the show. It helps it get into hands of the people who need to hear this message. So I would be so grateful if you could take just a few seconds, if you're on Apple Podcast, to quickly subscribe to the podcast, rate, review the show. And if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and let us know what you think. So without further ado, let's dive into this episode with Tara. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. Welcome, Tara, to the episode. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yes, I'm excited too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. To get us started off, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and the journey that's brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I guess it all started for me, like when I went traveling after high school. Like I'm a passionate surfer ever since I was 12 years old. So that led me to go travel after high school graduation. And while traveling, I learned so much about myself, about the world, about life, and that led me to just develop that curiosity about humankind in general. And after I got home, actually, I suffered from sort of like travel depression because, yeah, because I was living my dream. Like literally, what I've dreamt of ever since I was like 14 came true in that year. And then I came home and I was like, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to like be here in Germany again. I just want to continue living this dream. And like it went on for like 2 months or something, and then I just decided like something had to change, and that was when I got deeper into the personal development and also like mindset and everything. And I just discovered that by just deciding that you want to change something, you can actually change something. So I did that. I changed something. I booked another trip in my semester break, and I went abroad for the next 3 years, and sort of like just studied abroad. Like was more like distance learning, and just worked as a surf instructor. Learned a lot about personal growth and all that stuff. And yeah, and then at some point, I just decided I wanted to pass on my knowledge and wanted to like educate people about like all that I learned and all that I sort of like also came across in my studies. I did study sports and health science, and we had a lot of like psychology and neurology classes as well. And yeah, I just wanted to pass on that knowledge, and that led me to where I am today.
That's incredible. So, in your coaching, what do you specifically like? What do you specifically touch on? Because mindset is such a big like thing.
Yeah.
Like, what are your like ways that you help your clients, if you will?
Yeah, so basically I do it's not only mindset, it's more like a holistic package. I do help them to sort of find their purpose and discover themselves more, because I believe that that is like the foundation of any like dream life basically. And
Mhm.
then once you have this foundation, then you can like work on your mindset. And what I focus on there is literally like positive and abundant thinking. So overcoming those limiting beliefs that hold you back to feel the way you want to feel, to take action towards the things that you want to, and like yeah, just the like overcoming the thoughts that make you feel not the way you want to feel basically. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. It resonates a lot with me too because I agree with you. I think like at the bottom line of everything, if you want to achieve anything in your life, you need to understand what the purpose is, but then also why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love asking that question. Why? You know, why is it that you're doing what you do? Why is it so important? And why do you want to make that shift? I find is like such a key thing. And I'm really resonating with what you're saying. So I love that. Um, in terms of more of like the abundance mindset and that kind of thinking, how do you like, do you have any tips that you could give our listeners with how to sort of tap into that abundance mindset and what exactly does it mean?
So I guess to start off, what does abundance mindset mean? I think like the definition like is different to everyone, a little bit at least.
Mhm.
So for me, like abundance mindset really just means that you come from a place of love and like not lack. So because if you're in a lack mindset, for example, you believe that there is not enough, or that you're not good enough, or that like you don't know enough, or whatever. That there is sort of a lack within yourself, within your abilities, or within life even. And abundance mindset is sort of the opposite. So like you believe that there is enough, like no matter where you are in life right now, there is enough of whatever you need to make your dreams come true. And because there is enough, you can come from a place of love when you take action, and when you also like in terms of your thinking. So for example, a common lack mindset I experience within my clients and people I talk to is that they believe they're not good enough to, or not worthy enough to deserve something particular they want to manifest. And then it's about showing the love and compassion towards yourself, and starting to believe that you're worthy because you are just who you are, like there is no reason, or you don't need a particular reason to be worthy. It's just because you are alive that you're worthy. And switching into that mindset allows you to literally overcome any obstacle, whether that is physical or mental.
That's really beautiful. And so then how, if you're someone who wants to get to that place and you're not quite there yet, but you know that's the destination you want to be at, and you know that's the way you want to be thinking and feeling every day, what can someone do to start to like tap into those different feelings and like find that worthiness?
Yeah, I think it comes down to understanding like what makes you think you're not worthy, and then addressing that particular thing. From my experience, I know that like I felt not worthy in the past because a lot of people in my like school and my parents and stuff, they told me like I always have to improve, and
Mm.
I didn't feel worthy because I believed like, okay, I need to be better. But once I understood that, then I could show myself compassion and say like, no, Tara, you're worthy and good enough because you know a lot already. And obviously that's unique to everyone, but as soon as they find out what makes them feel unworthy, then they can address that. And then obviously it's just about replacing that limiting belief with a positive belief, and also I think tapping into what it feels like to feel worthy. And that obviously takes time, but we can use visualization, for example, to imagine what it would feel like to be worthy, and then reaffirming this feeling every day again until we start believing it.
That's a really, really, really good point. I love the idea of visualization. And I have this question for you because I'm terrible at visualizing things. So,
Yeah.
like in theory, I love the idea because I'm like, oh, yes, like you can visualize what you want. It's the best way to manifest things. So, what would you like? How can someone start to learn how to visualize things if they don't know how yet?
Okay, so I want to clarify a few key points first. When it comes to visualization, it's not necessarily about visualizing the outcome that you want to manifest, but more the process of you getting there. So, for example, if you want to manifest like a dream body, then it's not about like visualizing yourself having this dream body, but more visualizing yourself taking the action that is necessary to get that dream body. So, for example, visualizing yourself getting up, working out straight out of bed, or having like a healthy meal instead of an unhealthy meal. That's what, like in visualization, we call choice points. Like all those points in like throughout your day and week and month that you need to decide whether to go down path A or path B. And obviously only one path is leading you to your goal. You need to visualize them and visualize you taking the right path. So you don't necessarily have to be super great at visualizing things, but more just like reaffirming to yourself, okay, this is the path that I'm going to go down once I have to make this decision. And by practicing this, you sort of prime your brain into taking that decision once you have to take it, literally.
That is such an incredible point. I'm kind of blown away because it sounds so simple, but I've literally struggled for years to like when you do like a visualization meditation or something like that, and people are like, visualize yourself in 5 years. And I'm like, huh? Like, I'm like, I can't, like, it's hard for me to see the pictures. But what I understood in that, like from that time, is that there are two different types of people who can like visualize things, quote unquote. There's the people who can like actually see things in their mind, but then there's people who just can't and who just have like feelings instead. So I love what you're saying. It kind of blends both together. Like you don't necessarily need to see it, but more so that you just need to like embody it for
Yeah,
the outcome to sort of come to fruition, right? Or
absolutely. And like obviously you got to know what the outcome is, but you don't have to have like a picture of it. You can also write it down. Like some people, like you said, work better with images, other people work better with like words or whatever it is. So as long as you know the outcome, then you can like either tap into your feelings and like visualize how you want to feel when taking those actions towards the goals, or you can, like I said, like visualize yourself taking the action like that leads you to that goal. And for that, you sort of just have to like reconnect with what you do anyway on a daily basis. Like coming back to the example with the working out, like you probably worked out before, so just visualize yourself doing that again, and then again and again until you manifested that body.
okay, very cool. I like that you have this perspective of taking action as well in the visualization, because and you use the word manifestation as well. And so here's the thing too, maybe I'm not like okay, my bread and butter is not manifestation, but I watch a lot of things that are manifestation and that kind of thing, and I dabble in it, like I try and like whatever and that kind of thing. but I'll practice it every day. But
Yeah.
one thing that I noticed at the beginning of my journey, especially when I started to learn how to manifest things, was this huge idea that you don't need to do anything for the manifestation to happen. And I don't know if that's necessarily the truth.
I think it's not, because manifesting actually means making things happen. And for me, that definition includes doing things, like because it doesn't mean like things happening, it means making things happen. So you have to take action to make things happen. So I think it's important to like visualize and to tap into your feelings and your images that you have about your future, but it's ultimately you need to take action because otherwise things won't come like just out of nowhere to you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like aligned action. It's like that piece of like thinking, like you
Yeah,
were saying, like thinking about what it is exactly that you want. How are you going to get there? And then what are the actions that's going to get you there? I love it.
exactly. And also to like be open sort of to like the opportunities life presents you, and that sort of is also part of the manifestation process that is a little bit more passive to just be like open to whatever life gives you and then use that as an opportunity to take action.
Yeah, that's really, 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 really good. I love that. And you have to listen because if ultimately, I mean, there's like billions of different decisions and things that we could choose, right? There's so many, if you think about it, like, it depending on what you believe, what other people's beliefs are, or whoever's listening, but you can have like your one predestined path, or you have like the path that you're just going on and you're just strolling on. But in that moment, like in every single moment, you have all these different choices, right? That you can make every single day. And so I think based off of like what you want out of your life, you'll always end up picking the choice that's most aligned to you. But I feel like you have to be like in tune first to be able to understand what the next step is for you in terms of where you want to go. I don't know if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
no, definitely. You have to have a clear idea of where you want to go or where you're headed to make those choices. And yeah, visualization can be a great tool to help you really narrow down what those specific choices are that you need to make. Because you like over and over again recall them in your mind, and then it's way easier to like I said, make the right choice.
I love that a lot. I noticed that one of the things that you talk about is like the 5 facets of change. So, what are your 5 different facets? Could you take us through that just a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, my 5 facets of change are basically the 5 pillars I work with that I believe everyone sort of needs to engage in to create a happier and more fulfilled life. And they are awareness, mindset, mindfulness, manifestation, and health. So, awareness sort of refers to everything around self discovery, purpose, and also personal growth. So, literally anything that helps you to get to know yourself better, to create a vision for your life, to like prime yourself for alignment in life as well. And then also to sort of like learn to listen to yourself and to your intuition, and also to sort of like your mind, but in like a positive sense. And then mindset includes obviously what we talked about already, like positive thinking, abundant thinking, but also motivation, because I think that is key as well when it comes to like achieving your goals, whether they're like personal or professional. And then in the mindfulness part, I think like that is for me the one I learned or have grown the most in recent years. And it's literally about surrendering to like the universe, and that might sound a little bit cheesy, but it's literally about believing that there is a guiding force out there that helps us, that is always watching out for us, and that we can like trust with our lives, especially in times like these, like when everything is so uncertain. Mindfulness and surrendering to this energy is so crucial to not lose your faith, and to also like sort of embrace the positive things that are in your life when everything around you is maybe not as you have imagined it to
Hmm.
be.
That's
Yeah, and
so
then sorry. Go ahead. No?
Go ahead, keep going.
I just wanted to finish with the manifestation, which is obviously like making things happen, action taking, but also like the goal setting part itself, because a lot of people struggle with setting the right goals, prioritizing them. So this is definitely something that I always recommend people to look at as well. And then like the health part, which refers to physical health, but also mental health. So emotional freedom, like healing, whatever causes you pain and negativity. And once you have sort of like worked on all of them, not at the same time, obviously, and everyone needs maybe a different pillar, like more intensely. But then once you have sort of found the balance between working on all of them, then you have like a pretty good foundation to be happy and be fulfilled and live a good life, basically.
I love that so much. I like that you use the 5 pillars in your work. It's really all encompassing. It's very like whole person, in
Yeah.
every area of your life, which is really, really great because, one thing, and I'm sure you like know this just from all the work that you do, it's like one thing that may be bothering you in one area actually like leads to like so many different areas. So if we go back to the idea of like wanting your dream body, for example, you may have this vision to have this dream body. You want to take the actions to get there, but you continuously self-sabotage yourself. Why do you self-sabotage yourself? Well, then you have to go back and look at the stories. Like, what stories are you telling yourself? I'm literally using this as an example because this is me and this is what I do. And this is my
Yeah.
one thing right now that I've been trying to work on for the last like few months. And rediscovering why all of those different things, like why do these stories come into play, right? And so it's like, while you can focus maybe on one pillar, you're actually helping people like in all of the pillars at the same time because you're helping them like across the board.
Exactly. And I'm a huge believer in like that everything in life is connected. And so is like every single area of our lives. And like you said, it all translates into each other. And if you're mentally unwell, if you have a bad mindset, then this will translate into your action taking. If you don't know, or if you like lost alignment with yourself, then this will translate into how much you're able to show up for your goals, for your own physical health even. So yeah, it's about like finding out like where the actual like issue is, sort of, and then addressing that, and then while at the same time obviously working towards improving in the specific area that you want to improve in.
I love that. And then so in terms of tools like meditation and then visualization, are these tools that you use every single day? And I guess to spin off of that question, is there anything else that you would suggest people start to implement if they haven't already, in order to achieve that, that resilient mindset?
Yeah, so I do use visualization every day. I do use meditation as well every day, but not formal meditation. I divide between formal and informal meditation. So I would say I meditate every day, but I don't sit down to meditate every day. But I would, for example, go on a walk with no phone, with nothing, but just like mindful walking basically. And that also can be very meditating, or just like sitting there, like drinking my tea, whatever, is also like a sort of informal meditation. And I definitely do that every day, but I don't sit down every day. And I think that's something that also like everyone can implement, like informal meditation. It doesn't have to be like sitting down to meditate actually every day. And then I use affirmations every day as well, just in the morning and also throughout the day, taking one tiny affirmation, one thing I want to believe today, and then reaffirming that to myself throughout the day every time I have the chance, or like adversity strikes me or whatever, then I just recall the sentence that I set out to recall in the morning, and that helps me a lot as well. And then I do practice EFT. Have you heard of that?
I have. Is it the tapping?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
can you explain this a little bit to all of our listeners? We actually haven't talked about EFT on this podcast before. So I'd love to know, like, how does it work? How do the points work? Like, I've tried it before, I've done it, but I just like, I've never been consistent. I've never reaped the benefits, if you will.
Okay, so EFT is a therapeutical practice similar to acupuncture. It does work with the energy flow of the body, which is called the meridian paths or meridian points. And those are basically spots in our body where like the energy paths or channels of our body cross. And I mean, like maybe you're familiar with the fact that everything is energy around us, so our emotions and our thoughts, and that energy can like manifest itself physically in our body through like tension we experience, maybe stiff muscles or something like that, or even like physical pain.
Mm.
And by tapping on those spots, it's similar to acupuncture, where you put the needle on those spots, you release that pent up emotion and energy basically. So that's like the first sort of way in which tapping works. So you can literally use it just to release pent up energy or emotion by tapping on those spots for let's say 10, 15 minutes, and then you sort of like restore a positive energy flow in your body. But then you can also use it to reprogram your subconscious mind and change neural pathways um, by saying out loud specific phrases to a specific topic. So let's say you struggle with believing in yourself, then you would say in specific order, like all the things that, all the limiting beliefs you have around why you're not believing in yourself. And then slowly but surely throughout sections of tapping, you reintroduce positive beliefs. And because you trigger the mind body connection there, you can actually like replace those limiting beliefs if you do practice it on a regular basis with more positive ones. Obviously, that's just like very briefly explained
I know.
because there's a lot of science into it, and I could like talk literally an hour about that, but that's sort of how it works.
That's really, really cool. So then I know you have to like tap different sections of your like there's like, I think on the temples, and then like there's like on your face and like different parts of your body, right? Is it
Mm.
is it a specific like, so the sessions that I've done have always been like specific to particular spots, but like you were saying, you can just use it on any area that feels pain. So like ultimately you could do it on any part of your body.
Yeah, so like the traditional tapping or EFT does work with a specific sequence of
Mm.
tapping, but there is a sort of like it's more the like original thing where EFT resulted out of, which is called TFT, and there you simply use your hands and then your collarbone to tap, and then by focusing like mentally on the area of your body that is like feeling the pain, you can then release the pain in that specific area basically. So you don't necessarily have to tap on that. It's more important to tap on the specific meridian points in your body basically.
Okay, that's very, very cool. I feel like that would be a lot to learn if you wanted to dive into that. And I feel like there's just so many different ways that you can do it. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of science behind that as well, like around neuro like plasticity and stuff that is actually like the foundation of like EFT, but also visualization and affirmations, literally all those techniques. And that for everyone who might be a little bit like, oh, I don't know if that really works, like you would might want to look into neuroplasticity, and then you start believing that it works.
I love that. I love when the spiritual and the science combine together. It's the best.
Me too.
I know that I know our listeners on this podcast I mean, there's a lot of spirituality on this podcast. So, I know our listeners are very in tune with that and like all of those different types of things, but I just love, love, love when the science backs it up too. I'm like, yes, like that's
Yeah.
so good. I love
Yeah.
it.
It gives you even more reason to try those things.
Exactly. How specifically does it start to reprogram your neural pathways?
So basically, to touch a little bit on interneuroplasticity, basically, our brain is made up of neural pathways, which are connections between like neurons that are actually responsible for all the thoughts we have, and then ultimately communicate to our body, to our muscles, on what things to do, but also to like the little nerves and cells in our body that are responsible for our emotions. So literally everything we feel and do is generated in the brain. And those neural pathways, they're like habits. So they can change, they can learn, they can grow even. Like the more you do something, the more you train a thought, the bigger this connection gets and the stronger it fires once it's triggered. So similar to a habit, like if you do something over and over again, your body learns to do this particular thing. And so does your brain. Like if you repeat a certain thought over and over again, you strengthen that connection, and then your brain knows, okay, I need to think this thought. And obviously sometimes when like very like bad thing happen and there's a lot of emotion attached to it, this experience can manifest as a very strong neural connection just because there's a lot of emotion involved. And we sometimes not even aware that we have created this connection in our brain, and it just starts to come up when it's triggered again, for like through a situation or whatever. And then once we realize that we have this connection, we can train ourselves to sort of cop this connection by replacing it with the opposite belief. So for example, you believe, okay, I'm not good at soccer because you failed at a soccer game when you were 12 years old. And this started to build up and strengthen itself throughout the years as you grow older. And now you're like 25 and you decide like, no, I want to play soccer. And then you like reaffirm that like I'm good at soccer. And by like reaffirming that over a long period of time, you can build, like you weaken that pathway that used to believe the other thing, and then you strengthen the one that's new, sort of.
I love that. And then with that idea in mind, if you're using affirmations every single day, is it the same idea with affirmations, like repeating them to yourself? Like, because a lot of the times people will say like affirmations don't really work. Like, you know, you don't just say something to yourself and then all of a sudden it's, you know, it's all fixed or whatever. But I think that it kind of can. You know what I mean? If you repeat something to yourself enough, you're going to start to believe it. But would you say that that's like the way that you would sort of use written affirmations too, or like spoken affirmations without the tapping?
Yes, definitely. So affirmations, like are great to build neural pathways, especially if you choose to do like one or two specific affirmations over a course of maybe a month or something. Then you really start to believe this particular thing. But you have to be careful, and you have to attach positive emotion to the affirmation when you say it, because if you say it and then right after it think something like, okay, that's not true anyway, so where's the point? You know, like it doesn't work. Obviously you have to believe that it works, and you have to really believe what you say as well, otherwise you can't trick your brain, you know. But it does work.
It does work. And then comes in the whole idea of like, well, if you can't trick your brain, what's the block? What's holding you back from believing that to be true about yourself?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
cool. Okay, Tara, this is my last question for you. And it's a question that I
Okay.
ask all my guests when they come on the show. And it's, how can someone create more happiness in their day every day starting today?
Okay, so I have a couple tips because I think everyone is different and everyone lives a different life. So maybe like one thing wouldn't work for you. So I want the listeners to pick whatever suits them best. So
I
I
love
think
that.
so I think the first tip I have is to just on a daily try to change your perspective. You know, we have a set view of the world, and that is the lens through which we see everything that happens. And by challenging your perspective on a daily, you can discover things you wouldn't have discovered otherwise, you know. And that alone can bring you so much happiness, because there's literally things you didn't thought were there that could bring you so much happiness. But if you change that lens, then you discover them and they can like bring you so much happiness.
Love that. So good.
But yeah. I love that too. And the next thing I think is to focus more often on your breathing, because that's a wonderful way to turn to the present moment. And I read a quote once that said, like, in the present, there is no problems. And if you think about it, like, it's literally true, like right here, not considering past or the future, there's no problem because nothing matters than what, like, right now. So turning to your breath, turning to a present moment is a wonderful way to forget all your troubles and get a little bit happier.
I love those. I know you said you had, is there any more or were those the two?
I have one more.
Okay, I knew it. I knew there was one more.
And that is to make time in your day for one particular thing each day that brings you joy. It can be very small, like reading a few pages in a book or just spending a conversation with a friend. Like, take the time out of your busy day to do one thing, only one thing that really brings you joy, and be present with that. And then you will start to realize that no matter how bad your day was before, like, this one thing just made your day and made the difference.
Those are beautiful. I love those tips so much, especially the last one. I mean, I love all of them, but I think the biggest one that people like struggle on is giving themselves like time and space to do what they love. Because if you're okay, for example, this is where my mind goes with this. If you're an entrepreneur for a reason, right? You're an entrepreneur because you ideally probably want more control over like how you spend your time, the type of freedom that you have, where you can travel to, what you can do with your time and all of that, right? But what's the point in building the life that you love if you don't ever enjoy it?
Exactly. Right? Yeah, and being busy isn't like the solution, like you didn't start to be an entrepreneur to be busy all the time.
Exactly.
Obviously, things you need to do, but you did start this lifestyle because you ultimately wanted to get more out of life. So, but it doesn't happen until you choose to do so.
That is a beautiful reminder. Thank you. Tara, where can our listeners find you?
On Instagram at tara.fischer and on YouTube under Tara Fischer. With SCH.
Amazing. I'll link all of it on our show notes so that our listeners can connect with you really easily. But thank you so much for your time and for coming on to the show today. This was super fun.
It definitely was. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the Happiness Happens podcast. Please let Tara and I know that you're listening. Tag us online, share with us what you loved. And I so look forward to seeing you next week for next week's episode. Remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Well, it looks like we've made it to the end of this episode. I'm so grateful for you tuning into this week's episode, and I cannot wait to see you over on the next one. If you loved this conversation and this topic as much as I did, please feel free to leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening. It takes just a second, and it is so important for us so that we can make sure to deliver this content to those who need it. I'm wishing you the most beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.